Phil Phails at writing a theme song. He doesn't know the words to sing. If success is the flash in the pan, my friend, then failure's most everything. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. Phil Phails for you. Welcome back to Phil Phails. Today I have a returning guest, Dave Cutherell. Wave to everybody, Dave.
Hey, everybody.
You might remember Dave Cutherell. We did an interview. He's a mindfulness meditation facilitator and all-around seeker. And he's come back to deepen my understanding of his practice and his way of exploring the world and sharing that exploration with other people.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to be someone in front of him to be imparted that wisdom this morning.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate me being here as well as you being here. You know, it's just a wonderful time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I thought we'd start off with a little like grounding, whether it was breathing or just whatever you feel called to do, just a brief thing before we start.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do a little breath work here. You can eyes open or eyes closed. The one thing that's cool about the breath is that it not only we can control it, but it also controls us. So, you can close your eyes or not, and we'll just be doing a few simple breaths. It really doesn't take a lot. And one thing about the breath is that the way we breathe creates a certain energy in us. So if we intentionally breathe a certain way, then what we'll do is we'll help ourselves either calm or energize. So we'll just start out with one that is calming, and it'll just be simply 3 breaths where we take it in for a long intake, then we hold it for about 4 seconds, and then we blow out slowly. So let's start out with in. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. Again. Two, 3, 4. One more time. In. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, just take a few natural breaths. Kind of feel what happened in your body. Yeah, that's it. Go ahead and open your eyes and maybe share a little bit about what you experienced.
Yeah. Definitely feel there's a grounding, maybe a little tingle.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my body, like in my side body.
Yeah.
There's a difference to having your eyes open versus closed. And I'm not sure what that is. But
yeah.
Maybe just less stimuli on the body. Just
that's relaxing. What it is. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people meditate with their eyes open, kind of usually soft gaze down towards the floor or closed. There's no right way to do that, but yeah.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, at the Austin Zen Center, they recommend soft gaze down to the floor with your eyes open.
Yeah. That's definitely a Buddhist thing. Maybe I can start out, talk a little bit about what kind of the origins of meditation as we understand it. And so, that which we know through oral and written traditions, we know that humans have been meditating for over 2,500 years. It dates back to the most well-known initiator of this practice was the Buddha. But there was a practice as well in the Hindu world, which is based around the god system that they had at the time. And but most I would say more than not, of the meditation that's being done today is a derivative of the Buddhist world. Mindfulness meditation is derived from the original teachings of the Buddha. And he was born, or he lived 2,500 years ago, and that's why we know it happened that far back. So what we have is an evolution of meditation, and I neglected to say that when Christ came along, there was also a sect of the Christians that lived in caves and meditated as well. Mm-hmm. So it's in all traditions. It's just something that current thinking has brought to bear that it's a good thing to do. Although everybody on the other side of the ocean has already known this for a long time. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the origins of it. The kind of mindfulness or the kind of meditation I work in is primarily as mindfulness meditation, which is a derivative of the Buddhist teachings. It's been secularized, or as they say, they've taken the Buddhism out of Buddhism and created methodologies that allow you to meditate. So it is called insight meditation as well, or Theravada meditation, or tradition, I should say, of the Buddha, which is essentially the original teaching, because as in other traditions, it has been, they've been practicing this for over 2,000 years, and there's been a lot of human lifetimes in between then and now. So there's been a lot of divergences, a new thought that has been added in, which creates different sects of Buddhism as well as other traditions. So that the Theravada flavor of Buddhism is the one that goes back to the original sutras, which come out of the teachings of the Buddha. So it's kind of the purest form of what the Buddha was trying to teach.
Yeah. I think there's two different versions of Buddhism, the Theravada Buddhism and then the Mahayana Buddhism.
And Vajrayana as well.
Vajrayana. I'm not as familiar with that one.
Yeah, me neither. I kind of left, there's a lot of detail in a lot of the Buddhism sects and traditions out there that don't work well in the ADD mind. So I've kind of left those to other people that like that kind of thought.
We've been in the philosophy exploration I've been doing with Grant Potts, a professor of philosophy. We've been exploring the Mahayana and Buddhism, which was Nagarjuna is a huge part of. And I haven't explored up to a great extent the Theravada Buddhism. So this is a great opportunity to deepen my understanding of that area.
Yeah, and it's primarily it goes back to the Four Noble Truths, which is there is suffering and there's something we can do about it. There is a way out, and in Buddhism there's the Eightfold Path.
Right.
In modern psychology, there's a myriad of ways as well. So it's really just a continuum in the way I understand it from then to now.
Yeah, the Four Noble Truths. Let me just try to remember them. The first one is life is suffering.
Right.
Like it's coupled with this human experience, suffering.
Yeah, and that's also it from the point of view of you can use, instead of suffering, the word frustrating or unfulfilling or unsatisfactory. So yeah, just add a few more words in there in terms of how to interpret the first noble truth.
Right. And then the second one is that this suffering or this frustration, this dis-ease, this lack of ease, is caused by clinging or grasping or desire or want.
Exactly.
These types of words.
Yeah, grasping. It's also caused by aversion, which is us pushing away. But yes, it's primarily either grasping or aversion. Yeah.
And then the third one is that there's a way to...
There's a path out.
Yeah, there's a path out.
Yeah.
There's a way to free yourself from that human suffering experience.
Exactly.
And then the fourth one is the Eightfold Path. Buddhism has lists.
Yeah.
These are the beginning list, the first list.
Exactly.
And I don't remember all eight of those, but I know the first word in each one is right.
Yeah, there's a lot of rights in there, and that's can also be translated as skilled versus unskilled. So it's about developing skill in a number of different areas.
It's like right profession, right word, right. Do you remember some of them?
Concentration, not all of them.
Yeah, there's 8 of them. Y'all look it up.
Yeah. It's and not only that. I mean, the reason the Buddhism is structured the way it is because it was an oral tradition for 400 or 500 years before they actually wrote it down.
Right.
So, in the way that culture processes best is to create lists of things to pass on, and so they went wild. With the lists, and they created more lists as people came along after the Buddha.
Yeah, and this may or may not resonate with you, but as someone who has ADHD, is deeply neurodivergent, I find lists to be really helpful.
Yeah, they can be. Once they get it past about 3 items, I tend to lose it. So I think for sure structure and lists help the neurodivergent mentality that I have. But they also can act to overwhelm the mentality. And I've learned over the years, I tried for many years to become, a straight up practicing Buddhist. And I always dropped out when it got to the point where it was getting very detailed. And I just always migrated back to the simple instructions of the meditation that was the original instructions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I heard you talk a little bit about, the secularization of meditation, kind of separating it from the Buddhist rituals and practices. And what came to mind for me was the Jon Kabat-Zinn kind of version of Buddhism. Version of meditation.
Yeah, Jon Kabat-Zinn was one of the original Western U.S. Individuals that really popularized it. Also created a lot of good scientific research around it. Mm-hmm. It came to the States back in the 70s during the peace, love, and freedom, movements of the hippie generation. And so they would, that generation started to go over to India to seek gurus to follow. The Beatles were important in that activity. They went over to India and practiced in an ashram over there. And they popularized that idea. So people started to go over there, and several of them went over and went into the area of the world, which was Burma at the time, that practiced the Theravadan tradition. And those were people that are still teaching, people like Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein. And they came back to teach that version of mindfulness, and they were calling it was translated as mindfulness. It's also clear seeing, clear understanding, so they started to teach that. They started a center in Barre, Massachusetts, called the Insight Meditation Society, and that was the very first Insight meditation center in the U.S. So once that happened, that's why when Jon Kabat-Zinn, who was located in Massachusetts, started taking classes there, he brought it back to the medical world, and that's a whole nother offshoot. But he also wrote books that popularized it, and that's actually where I heard the expression is he says our job is to take Buddhism out of the Buddhism, and so that's where the secularization began. So what happened over time was that the gurus or the teachers from the East came over to a very interested audience in the U.S., and they started to integrate their practices into the U.S. World of meditation. And just like the U.S. is considered a melting pot of ideas and cultures, we became a melting pot for all the different gurus coming over here to establish their version of it. And what was interesting is that we started to see how those teachers would argue amongst themselves about what was right, because they had their way of doing it that had been developed in their particular area, and they had become, over years and years and generations, they had become the experts. They're the current living master in that tradition, and they would come over. And so there was a lot of conflicting Buddhisms. There was everything from the Theravadan to the Zen. And so all that was coming over, along with the Hindu meditation types. So anyway, I'll hit the pause button here in a second, but that's where we became a melting pot to create a more secular version of meditation.
Yeah. And is that where did you discover Buddhism? Is that the insight? Is that where you kind of started to wade into the waters of meditation?
I discovered back when I started meditating in I guess it was probably the late 80s or early 90s, probably early 90s. It was that at that time, Jon Kabat-Zinn was the most popular one. So I entered in as a student of his, just through CDs and tape recordings. So that's when I first got exposed to it. Just by accident, or by whatever synchronicity, it was Theravadan or insight meditation. That was the one that was the most popular at the time. And that's where I started. I thought I'd been having problems, as we mentioned in my last interview, with substances. I hadn't been diagnosed as ADHD yet, and I was kind of scattered, and I had a lot of anxiety issues. I mean, major anxiety issues. And I read an article that you could control your drinking through doing meditation. And so I said, I'll try anything to help control my drinking. As you might know from the last story, that didn't work. I had to eventually go into recovery, but that's how I started into it. And that's why I was insight meditation.
Yeah. It was my jumping off point as well. I think I know the mindfulness-based stress reduction, Jon Kabat-Zinn's 8-week program, do kind of a structured everyday practice.
Yeah. And that's what he, and the reason he created that program was that he was starting to create research, medical science-based research around the benefits of insight meditation. And he wanted to create a known quantity of a program to put people through so that he can measure the results of it both before and after, and validate in a science, Western thinking kind of way that there was benefit to meditation. Whereas everybody on the Eastern side knew for the last 2,000 years there was benefits, and they didn't need science to back it up. The Western world needed science to actually validate it. And that's where Jon Kabat-Zinn came in.
Yeah. Well, would you talk to me a little bit about your practice of meditation? And
Sure. Yeah. There's so I'm a seeker, as you said on the entry. I have been doing it for about 30 years, as best I can recall. And so I'm almost always after some period of time getting bored with one technique or another. So I've explored numerous techniques, practically everything that's out there. And so my current practice is an evolution. I'd like to say that practice, if anybody wants to develop a practice, the practice really needs to start as, well, what do you want to do with this practice? What are you trying to get out of this practice? Because it's kind of like exercise. You don't just exercise and feel better. You exercise to do something better with your life. I mean, old guys like me exercise so we don't break down. Younger people will exercise so that they can excel in a different sport, possibly, or just to relieve the stress of their day-to-day sitting still life. So meditation always has to start with, what are you trying to do? So what I'm working on currently is not necessarily what other people are working on, but I just want to put a little preface to that because I don't want to be misinterpreted that there is one way to do it and this is the way I've discovered to do it. So the kind of practice I do currently is it's kind of twofold. One's just a silent practice, which is to ground me in the morning. And then I'm currently studying under a teacher whose name is Henry Schuckman. And I do, and his is what I would call a westernized version of Zen. He's a Zen master from England. He's a poet and a very articulate teacher that I love to just listen to. So, and he has a whole framework of which he teaches too. That's has 4 tiers to it, and without going into it, it's just a nice progression from basic mindfulness to open awareness or natural awareness. So I kind of go back and forth between just basically grounding myself to open awareness practices to get a really sense of awe and wonder of the day, and to bring in the energy I want to bring into that day. That day I bring into it. So I'll just hit the pause button right there.
Yeah. Part of it is mindfulness, or part of it is that stilling the mind, calming the body, that part?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the other part is, building awareness or some sort of awareness practice.
Yeah. There's a lady that has really, I think, kind of created a framework that I understand really well because it's fairly simple. But her name's Diana Winston, and she's a meditation teacher at this center in Los Angeles called the Mindfulness Awareness Research Center, or short for MARC, M-A-R-C, center that Dr. Dan Segal founded about 15 or 20 years ago. He's a well-known psychotherapist, integrative. He's done a lot of work around integrating science along with all the different disciplines about the psychology of the mind.
Yeah, he has the book Awareness.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of books on developmental psychology with kids, the whole brain child, the yes brain child. I'm sure a couple of his books up there. I'm very familiar with Dan Segal.
Yeah.
His ideas around interpersonal neurobiology.
Yeah, no, that's a mouthful, isn't it? But it's really true, and how he developed his definitions of the mind by working with 40 different disciplines to come to agreement on what they could agree on, what the mind is. It's just he's done a lot of what I call foundational work in the area of consciousness, awareness, and meditation as a result of that.
Yeah.
So that center has evolved. He actually, I think, used to be the teacher out there when it started, and then they have brought on Diana, and she has a little book that's really excellent in describing what I'll put into what she calls the spectrum of awareness. So if you can imagine that there's a spectrum, which doesn't really, it could almost be a circle. It doesn't mean you're going left to right, like politics or black to light. It's kind of like this spectrum, if you want to think of it in a very organic way. And in one end of the spectrum, the practices are focused. So we focus on certain things during meditation. And as you work towards what she calls natural awareness, which is just the ability to be aware, there's what she calls flexible awareness. So, and she's created a framework of understanding around what basically the term awareness from focus to natural. And so there's practices in all of those areas now of how to just develop your ability to be aware.
Yeah. I'm reminded of Dan Siegel's wheel of awareness, right? Where he had the hub, which was the kind of the viewer or the
that's
consciousness or the being.
exactly. That's the aware what I call the awareness of the awareness. It's like that part of us that is aware of all the other stuff going on inside of us, including our thoughts and our feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then each hub, that was the hub of awareness, and then each spoke was one sensory, whether it was like, oh, this is a smell, is this a thing,
a thought.
You place your sensory kind of awareness on. You could put it on a thought in your mind, you could put it on a feeling, you could put it on a smell or a sound. And so this like spectrum awareness, is it similar to that?
Yeah, it's similar to that. It's very similar to that, and she's just put her spin on it that's a little bit simpler than this wheel of awareness, and that's her way of teaching. But the root of it was Segal's wheel of awareness, and I've seen him live 3 or 4 times, and he's amazing. I mean, he's like one of the most amazing individuals and brains and articulate humans I've ever seen and person. And he'll lead complete audiences through his wheel of awareness exercise. And that was the original, his original way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the five senses that we know, and that's, taste, smell, sight, touch, and sound. And then in Buddhism, we have kind of some others that are of the mental variety or the cognitive variety. And that's where I think we go when we talk about placing our awareness on thoughts in our mind, the movements and the things that are going on.
It's primarily thoughts and then emotions, if you want to think of those two things as being internal landscape. And then there's kind of stepping back from those as well, and there's something that happens that observes all that. And so there's just, let's call it the observer. So it's being internally aware of how those are playing out moment to moment.
Yeah. You spoke about a natural awareness and a focused awareness. And I'll try to articulate what I think that means or how I make sense of that. One would be, I'm looking at the Rubik's Cube, right? This Rubik's Cube, and I'm, to the exclusion of all things, I can shut down like a tunnel and say, I'm focusing all my awareness, all of my attention to that one object.
Yeah.
And taking in that object completely. And then there's a softer kind of awareness I can take in of the whole environment, the room, you're in it. And it can be almost like expanding myself in some way to include everything. The lamp behind you, the plant, even into the sunroom and things I can feel there or see there.
Yeah, and it's so it might be, the way I might think about it, and it's a little exercise she puts together in her book is stare at an item in the room, and that's focused awareness. Now stare at a wall in the room and just notice how your attention might go from one thing to another. And that's focus. That's flexible awareness.
Flexible awareness.
Yeah, right. And then open awareness is just staring out into space and not focusing on anything. More like a complete video image, if you want to think of it that way, and just take in the entirety of it. And that's natural awareness. And then there's the bonus awareness, which is you can then be aware of that part of you that's aware inside. So that's how she describes it. And I think it works real well for how I understand the ability to deal with this word we use as awareness. Yeah.
I understand the first two. And I've practiced with folks the last one that you spoke on, this like idea of turning awareness back on itself. That's been a little bit more difficult for me to
Yeah.
conceptualize, if not to realize.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for me to focus on a meditating cat, right? And focus on a meditating cat.
Exactly. Your breath or anything like that.
And
Yeah.
it's easy for me to take in this whole image without really focusing on anything at all. And then to, cycle back my awareness on itself, it's not as clear.
No, that one is tricky because our mind tends to get in the way of that. And it's that's why they call meditation is a practice. It's like practicing any skill that you want to develop. It's, what they call it, 10,000 hour rule. It's how do you practice to play an instrument? How do you practice to be good at a sport? How do you practice to do anything with any skill?
Yeah.
It took me a long while to understand what they were talking about. But that's not the goal. That's the practice is to just play with that and to see what happens. And over time, my experience, as well as I think a lot of people's experience, is over time, they start to see what that means to them. And then that opens up even the experience of you in this world even more. And so it's not an end state. There's no nirvana. You and I are in nirvana right now. We're present with each other. We're at peace with each other. I mean, that, is nirvana to me. So there's no end state that we're after. It's all about being okay with where we're at and how we see things.
That makes sense. Something came up to me while you were talking, and it's this idea. I've been doing deep dives into philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is. And sometimes when talking with Grant about philosophy for like 2 hours, or reading the book, reading the text and really writing down the notes and understanding, getting towards understanding, I'll feel psychedelic experiences, or just like what does this all mean? What is this all for? And when I was speaking with him yesterday, he shared that this isn't something for everybody to do all of the time. There's a value to having it be a part of your life, but only the small percentage of folks choose to have that be 100% of their life.
Yeah.
Like our professional philosophers. And I wonder if it's the same with meditation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great analogy. There's only one LeBron James, only one Michael Jordan. Those individuals had an amazing talent and dedication to get them to where they're at. We don't all want to be that. We want to be us. So this is a journey about, what we are, what I am, what this whole thing called conscious living is all about. So to me, it's just a way to hone my fulfillment in life.
Yeah. Well, we're about at the halfway point. I wonder if we could both share a practice with each other.
Yeah.
Would you like to go first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah. I remember last time we did something that was triggering for me. We'll see how it goes this time.
You want me to go first then?
Yeah, go first.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Last time, having fun and play, being silly, brought up some stuff for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll invite us to do that again, and you can play around as much as you want.
Okay,
but it is a practice of silliness.
Yeah.
I find improv to be a pathway to enlightenment and a spiritual practice, as well as a wonderful way to connect with folks and to find some kind of like deep intimacy.
Yeah.
Being silly with someone like a child is, I think, rarely realized as we get older, and we get behind all of our, walls of, what you'd call it.
Yeah.
It's like ideas of,
Defenses.
these ideas of, I need to be an adult. I need to always be some sort of way in order to fit into that adult archetype.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to play a simple game.
Okay.
This one's called 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
There's 3 numbers in this game and only 3 numbers.
Okay.
And we'll cycle through them.
Okay.
So I would say 1 and you would say
1.
You'll say 2.
I'll say 2. Okay.
And I'll say 3.
Okay.
And we'll start back over with
1,
2,
3.
1,
2,
3.
1,
2,
3.
Okay, we got that.
All right.
So the next part of the game is we'll start out with 1, 2, 3, and then I'll do the first one just to model it. I'll take one of the numbers and I'll replace it with a sound or a gesture, or a gesture that has a sound.
Okay.
And then that will take place of that number. And so when you get to that number, you'll repeat that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
You want to start with
So 1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3.
1.
Boop, 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 boop.
And now do I do 2 or 3? Or do I do boop, boop, boop?
3.
3. Okay.
1,
2. No. Boop, boop, boop.
3.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
Okay. Now, boop, boop, boop is 2.
2. Yeah.
I'm going to invite you now to either with 1 or with 3 to replace it with something.
Okay.
It could be anything.
Uh-huh.
Some people snap or clap. Some people make a silly noise.
Okay.
It could be anything.
Okay.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
Then I do
Boop, boop, boop.
3. Boop, boop, boop.
3. Boop, boop, boop.
3. Boop, boop, boop.
What? What?
Okay, so
Boop, boop, boop.
wah, wah. Boop, boop, boop.
Wah, wah. Boop, boop, boop.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Okay. That's like the basis of the game. Now let's start with 1, 2, and 3, and naturally, either one or the other will replace one. Okay.
Okay.
1,
2,
3.
1,
2,
3.
1,
2,
3.
1,
2,
3.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
1,
Boop, boop, boop.
3.
Whoop, boop, 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 boop.
I'm confused now.
Is boop, boop, boop 2?
I think so, but I'm totally losing it. My mind's getting very confused.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't track things like that really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's stop right there.
Yeah, yeah.
That was fun playing that game with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, it's definitely one of my things is kind of, I guess it's short-term memory has taken a hit over the years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get lost in I can look at a word and then try to, what word was that? And it just like it doesn't there.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. I don't know if that's an ADD thing or an age thing, but it's a thing.
Could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Did shame or anything like that come up while we were playing that game?
At the outset, it was like, yeah, I could feel it coming on, and then it was like, oh, it's okay. This is going to be fun. So, yeah.
All right. Well, now I'll invite you to share a practice.
Yeah, that's so this is usually when I ask, well, what do you want to get out of the practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think would be? Yeah. Let's see. Maybe so there's either
You want to do
relational
it?
practice or a practice of ourself.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of relational practices other than the breathing. We've done that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I just do meditation practices. So let's do that.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Zen practice I was listening to this morning. So it's just convenient.
Okay.
It's so yeah. So just as a little bit, just 1 or 2 sentence intro. Zen koans are questions that are unanswerable. So they're posed in meditation in the Zen practice to help free up the mind. So we'll just take a few moments to do a Zen koan. Okay, and then we can talk about, well, what do we get out of it? And you can say what you got out of it, and then I can say what I see in it, and then we can end the practice. How about that?
Yeah. I like
Okay,
it.
cool. So just kind of take a few moments to close your eyes or bring a soft gaze. Let's just start out with a few deep breaths, just to kind of ground into the seat. Yeah, if you want to take a deeper breath to bring a little bit more release, that's cool too. You might bring your mind to whatever you want to bring it to that encompasses that word awareness that we were talking about. Might be awareness of the seat, your breath, if your eyes are open, of things out in front of you, the sound of your refrigerator, whatever you choose to be aware of. Bring in the question of, who am I? See what comes up when you just internally ask that question. Now migrate into the question of, whose awareness is this? You might think it's my awareness. What if it's not? You might think of yourself as, I am Phil, or I am a producer. What's below that? Take a few more breaths and ask yourself one more time, who am I? Am I this person that's sitting in here, in this chair, or am I this awareness that is observing this person in this chair? Rest in that awareness. Yeah, start to open your eyes and See if you can even begin to describe what went on.
Yeah, place my awareness on different things. The way this chair is sticky to my skin.
Mm-hmm.
A pain in my knee. The sound of the fridge. And who am I is there was some, I don't know, the word fear comes up around that question, and I don't know what that means, but it was
interesting.
Like a
timing
in my chest.
Interesting.
Like not knowing, or like not being able to come to anything, nothing coming and like wanting to answer a question or wanting to be, to meet it.
Yeah. Kind of your core is answering that question. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all about just trying to get the mind out of the way and experiencing what it's like to just be. Question tends to confuse the mind to the point where it'll eventually give up on trying to answer it. And then what's below it is really where the fruit is. And it's different depending upon who you are.
Yeah.
You just experienced an entryway into the fear of possibly not knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And that's deep work right there.
Yeah. And then am I this vehicle in the chair?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I the awareness of because I'm aware of it. I look down and here I am. And then there's this maybe emptiness that's the awarer.
Mm-hmm. That's in Buddhism often is described as emptiness.
Yeah. Non-self.
Non-self. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, to me, that practice where it has led me over the years is there was a moment when I realized that awareness is almost infinite, and I'm just in a sea of that infinite. And it's like I think we were talking after our interview last time, is that, is consciousness created in our mind, or is consciousness there and our mind's just tuning into it?
Yeah.
And there was a point in one meditation where it actually literally flipped, and it felt like I had become the entire thing. And that's what I've heard shared about, the end result, if you want to call it, of these awareness practices is this sense of connectedness that really feeds the heart. And it's getting it at a visceral level that we are all connected. It's not like that's a really cliche thing to say these things these days, but to feel it and to actually experience like my awareness is part of your awareness, is part of the whole world's awareness. That's a whole different feeling of wanting to take care of other people around me.
Yeah. Compassion.
Yeah, exactly.
I think of the world universal consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Some oneness of all of this.
Yeah. So those practices, and that's what's attracted me to Zen of late, is it just presents a way to explore that awareness that's greater than just the one I have. I think the more that we understand what consciousness is, I think it's starting to come around to where more people than not believe that our brains don't generate it. Our brains only tune into it. And consciousness is something that's much greater than our ability to create it in our mind. Yeah. So it's things like astral projection and out of body experiences, and that and not psychedelic, but where you can read other people's minds, or you get hits that other people are about to call and they call, is that where there's this, what I would think of as consciousness ether out there that we're just tuning into. And that's kind of what the fruits of my meditation practice is to keep that alive and fresh in me in the morning when I wake up and go into the day. Otherwise, I'll get convinced that it's all about me, and I just need to get these 16 things done today, and then when I go to bed, I'll be okay. So yeah. Anyway,
that we're all like walking, eating, breathing receptors, or I think of like broadcast towers.
Yeah.
That are both sharing our sensory data and receiving sensory data from others.
Yeah, it's I've heard it described as our each person or sentient being is just a vortex that is is contacting the greater overall consciousness of the world. Yeah. The universe, if you want to think about it. Yeah. It's a good way to wake up too.
There's a koan. When you mention koans, I think about the one that I've come back to, and it puzzled me at first when I first read it, and I've thought about it different ways, and I wonder how you think about it.
Okay.
Have you heard that koan? If you see the Buddha on the side of the road, kill the Buddha.
Yeah, I have.
At first, it seems so.
Seems mean.
It seems mean. Yeah. Kind of graphic and aggressive.
I think it is. It's if I understand it in a metaphorical way.
Yeah. I think that's where I've come to understand it too. This idea that, how do you see it?
Well, first of all, there is no Buddha. So that's, if you see it, you're seeing a projection of something that you think is there, and the metaphor of killing it is just kill that whole idea. There is no there is no one person that has it all. Yeah, that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, I think of it in a very similar way, that at a certain point in your evolution or your journey, there'll be a time when your master, your teacher, your wisdom comes from within yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you see it outside, if you make some external thing, that you're holding on high. Yeah.
It's kind of like if you see God out there, it's really not God.
It's not God.
No.
It's a projection.
Yeah, exactly.
It's inside of you.
Yeah, it's an interpretation. It's a false belief that you can actually see one thing and understand one thing. It's either the Buddha or God or any, ultimate divine being.
Yeah. Man, those meditations are good. Good medicine.
They're a good way to start the day for me. Yeah.
What is your practice kind of like?
It's kind of like that. I mean, I usually alternate between let me actually specifically what my practice is. Answer your question is I wake up usually at least an hour or two before I have to be anywhere or do anything in particular, and usually about 5 or something in the morning, and I'll get up and fix a cup of tea and do a 15-minute silent meditation with some interval bells to kind of bring me back into the world when my mind wanders. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I feel somewhat grounded, and then I'll do a guided meditation that's about 20 minutes long. That's some open awareness, usually a guided meditation. And then I do my studies of whatever's most interesting. Maybe listen to a Dharma talk or somebody like Diana Winston's audiobook or something that gives me some information about what I teach. And then I'll start the day with some sort of body wake up, either qigong or strength training or stretching, yoga practice, just keep it varied and to wake up the body, and then I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
Turn into my old ADD self and go get some shit done.
Your first beginning of the day is waking up around 5, getting some tea, and then having a silent meditation, about 15 minutes, and then taking on some information from one of your spiritual kind of influencers, the folks that are your colleagues, your peers, people that are also exploring this and sharing what they find. Mm-hmm. And then what was the last thing you do? Yeah.
Oh, and then just stretch and and
yoga, stretching, qigong,
strength training,
some kind of movement process to get your body woken up.
Yeah. And I bought my my pandemic present to myself was an infrared sauna, so I'll jump in the infrared sauna too.
That's a red lights.
Yeah, it's not even red. It's just at an invisible level. It's just it's kind of like being next to a fire, but there's no fire there. It's interesting.
Keeps up your body.
Yeah, it does.
That wakes everything up.
Yeah, gives a good body buzz and relaxes everything.
Yeah. Do you have any workshops or any?
Oh, thanks for asking.
Events you're going to?
Yeah, I'm about to go on a big travel, and then when I get back from that, I'm going to offer a couple of classes to ADHD crowd, so to speak, and mindfulness meditation is going to be offered through Zoom, and I'm getting it posted on my website that you can go to. It's custommadedave.com.
Custom Made Dave, the same way you would spell it in the normal way. Custom, CUSTOMMADEDAVE.
Yep.
Custom Made Dave, and I'll have that somewhere.
And I'm just getting that up and running to where you can go register for the class, and it's a 4-class series, and it's essentially an introduction to mindfulness meditation. It can be thought of as an introduction or as just a way to rededicate a practice and start up and work in a group environment and get supported through that.
And you're tailoring it to folks that have ADHD?
Yeah. And I worked with James Ochoa, who's a well-known therapist in the area, to develop the coursework. And it's primarily geared towards creating more attention skills and reducing what he calls the emotional distress syndrome of the overwhelm we were talking about earlier. We just get overwhelmed so easy because our mind can fire in so many directions. It's working with that, and also it has a one class in it on just how to be nice to yourself, because we tend to beat ourselves up.
Mm-hmm. Self-compassion.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Self-kindness, self-compassion. Yeah. How do we just kind of let ourselves be who we are rather than beat ourselves up for who we think we should be?
Yeah. As
James says, early on, it was one of the first sessions I ever did with him. He listened to me for a while and he goes, "Dave, take it easy with that 2x4." Because I was beating myself up so bad and being so self-critical. And it's just a part of the journey of somebody like me and others who think that we should be different. And, in reality, we have one of the most potent, amazing neurologies out there, in my opinion, that can deal with so many things at once. We just have to train it on how to do it. And that's what the meditation practices are about.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of James Ochoa. He's been on the show.
Oh, excellent.
Had a wonderful interview with James, and look forward to continuing that discussion with him as well. So it's nice to find other places where he's influencing practices and helping.
Yeah, and he's going to post through his email list as well once I get the course. The course is going to be offered in June and in September.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it? You said it's 4 sessions?
Yeah, it's 4 weekly hour-long sessions. I think we're going to do it on Thursday nights between 7 and 8. Because that's when he does his town hall, and I'm doing it in between the periods of time that he does his town hall meeting in, which I'm a big advocate of as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him talking about his town hall.
Mm-hmm.
where ADHD folks can come and ask him questions. And
Yeah, it's a really good format. It's a good forum. Usually 20, 30, 40 people show up on Zoom that are all, either struggling or at peace with their ADHD-ness. Some of them are therapists that deal in the area. So it's a real kind of broad mix of people that just listen to James's topic for the week, and then we just all support each other and tell how we deal with that particular issue, to get some more ideas on how to actually, and also better perspectives on what's going on.
yeah, that universal consciousness, all of us helping each other in a more physical way.
Yeah.
How is that for you? And
Yeah.
well, this is how I do it, and giving us ideas and different
Exactly.
tips and tools.
Yeah, and I plan to do a very similar thing so that people who are either struggling with a meditation practice or just want to get deeper into it, it's just such a beautiful way to train our somewhat hectic and unskilled minds to be skillful in how we see the world and how we deal with the world. And hopefully people will develop a short but daily practice as part of the class, and we can share what's getting in the way, or maybe where the successes are, so that we can help support each other into a meditation practice.
Yeah, trying to encourage folks to meditate. When I was looking into meditation, I sought out studies that were about meditation and ADHD, and it seemed like there wasn't a lot. There might be now, and I might have missed some, but the ones that I found were positive.
Yeah, and my personal experience with it has been over the years amazing. I mean, James, who's known me, I was originally went to him probably close to 20 years ago. He was one of the persons that helped diagnose me. Recently told me I wouldn't even present as ADHD, and I says, "Well, you just don't live in this mind." But I'm still ADHD. I just have learned and become at peace with what that is, and learned how to become skilled in how I direct my thoughts and how I keep my attention. And that comes with a meditation practice. But it is a practice. It's not an end result.
Yeah, it's a continual, lifelong practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No end.
No end.
Yeah, well, there's an end. I don't want to get there, though.
Well, it's like breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like or drinking water.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't think of, I've drank enough water
Exactly.
for the rest of my life.
No, that's a beautiful analogy. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we're kind of getting close to the end. I wonder if there's anything we want to do to wrap up, or anything you want to share with all the people.
No, I just would love for anybody and everybody who wants to be part of a meditation journey is to join in with me. It's my practice now, because I realize that I can't continue just to do this on my own. I realize that there's the best way to do this is to share the experience, and I think there's a connectivity that helps us change when we work together on a specific topic, and mine just happens to be meditation. I don't know why I have followed and done meditation so reliably and religiously for so many years. I just know that it's just so helpful, and I just want to share that.
Yeah, and you are sharing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
Could we end with some sort of short exercise, maybe a little guided meditation?
Sure. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, let's just let's do a little bit of a heart practice, because we haven't really talked about that a lot. But let's just kind of rest into the chair, and you know the deal by now. Just take a few deep breaths. Nothing magic here. Yeah. I begin to bring into your awareness, your torso, the heart area. Yeah. What we're doing here is we're just want to experience the warmth that the heart can generate when we're connected. See if you can connect with that inborn desire to be well. Repeat a few things that I might offer to you, or use your own expressions. May I be happy. May I be at peace. May we all be happy. May we all be at peace. If you can feel the gratitude that I have for you, as I experience the gratitude you have for me. May our practice help this whole world heal, one person at a time, starting with ourselves. You can open your eyes and let's wish each other a namaste. And in this case, namaste says, thank you for sharing this space with me today. So on 3. 1, 2, 3. Namaste.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of a loving kindness meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's about how we feel gratitude. Gratitude's a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our desire to be happy. It's our desire to have others around us happy. It's so innate.
Yeah.
It's part of who we are.
I think we need it more and more in this world, this chaotic world, seems like sometimes.
All the time. There's not a time we don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. This is Dave Cutherell. Custom Made Dave is the website, custommadedave.com.
Yeah.
And he's going to have some workshops where he helps folks with ADHD, but I imagine those workshops would help folks without ADHD too.
Yeah. I think of it, I asked James about that label, and what he likes to do is talk about just whoever's attention challenged.
Yeah.
You know, that's, and I think that's pretty much everybody in today's Western environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep, come on board.
Yeah. Go find Dave. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can I
You
have a
bet.
hug?
Yeah, you bet, man. You bet.
Let me
Right.
just go this way. Man.